employers, if you really stop looking at us as a liability, people like me will come for your job. Okay. Maybe that's what you're afraid of. Maybe you don't want to see somebody with a disability in the CEO chair. Maybe you don't want to see somebody who could actually have a higher CEO salary than you, especially someone with a disability.
Welcome to the Nick Speaks podcast, where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud for the disabled community. Tune in every Tuesday, and don't forget to subscribe. And now your host, Nicholas Comstock. This episode of Nick Speaks is brought to you by the Columbus Restorative Massage and Wellness Studio. At Columbus Restorative, every session is designed to restore balance to the body and mind. From easing stress and tension to supporting overall wellness, their team provides more than just a massage. It's a complete restorative experience. It's about truly restoring your body and mind so you can show up as your best self every single day. Whether you're stressed, sore, or simply need time to reset, their team knows exactly how to help you feel renewed. And listeners of the Nick Speaks podcast can enjoy 20% off their next visit by booking online and using the code SPEAKUP at checkout. That's SPEAKUP, SPEAKUP. Take time to recharge, renew, and restore with Columbus Restorative Massage and Wellness Studio. Now let's begin today's episode of Nick Speaks.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this brand new episode of the Nick Speaks podcast, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community, where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. I am your host, Nick Comstock, and you guys, I am back this week. I want to thank Kyle for taking over at the last minute, and my AI friends Ava and Jake, although they don't need to be thanked because they're not humans, but I want to thank Kyle for taking over at the last minute and making sure that you guys had a wonderful episode. And I listened to parts of it and I liked it, so I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. The morning of the airing of last week's episode, I went into a meeting and somebody already told me how cool they thought it was that I used AI for an entire episode, and they thought it was really unique and cool. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as the person I spoke with did. And who knows, we may have more episodes like that in the future, but I really love being with you guys every week. I'm sorry I couldn't be here. I had a family emergency. If you want to follow along with what's going on with that, follow me on Facebook, same name as it is at the bottom of your screen. If you're watching on YouTube, Nicholas Comstock on Facebook, just send me a friend request or just follow me and you'll get all my updates about what's going on with my grandfather, because I don't want to take time to give you the updates here, but I do share on my TikTok and as well as my Facebook platforms. So please follow me there, both at Nicholas Comstock. Okay, you guys, I want to talk about something that I've talked about a lot on this show, but I want to talk about it from a totally different angle. And I actually did a recent Facebook blog about it that got a lot of attention. And the name of the Facebook blog was Nick, You Could Always Volunteer. I Call Bullshit. And I talked in that Facebook blog about how, um, of course, I was deemed unemployable by 2 different states and 3 counties. And one of the first things that's always brought up to me is, hey, Nick, you could always volunteer and get your foot in the door, and then maybe a job opportunity will come. And that's always been the first course of action. And that really upsets me because if you're talking to someone that is not disabled in any way, even if their disability is not visible, They don't say to them, you could always volunteer and then see what happens. Maybe a job opportunity will open up. You don't say that to another grown 35-year-old man or 35-year-old woman. You say, what are your skills? Do you have a high school diploma? I don't even have that. We've talked about that before on this program. Um, we don't even say this to 12-year-old kids. If your 12-year-old son or daughter comes to you, if you're a good parent and they ask you, um, hey, I want a new game system or I want a new bike, what do you say to them? You don't just give it out to them. If you're a good parent, you say, okay, well, what extra chores can you do around the house? Let's see if you can mow a lawn. Let's see if you can shovel snow. Of course, with the Armageddon that the whole country just went through, if you sent your kid out shoveling snow, they probably got enough money to pay for that bike and some more. Because it's been crazy, and I hope you all stayed safe and warm during the snow Armageddon. I know I did. I had to rearrange some appointments and things like that because it was so bad out. Anyway, but we don't even say this to 12-year-old kids. We don't even say to them, volunteer and let's see where that gets you. So that's why I am starting to call out bullshit on this. Well, if you have a disability, you could always volunteer nonsense, because we don't say that for people who aren't disabled, or for, like I said, for people who have a disability but it's not visible. We don't say that to them. We figure out what can be done. And I think a lot of the time the reason that volunteer thing is put out to people with disabilities, number one, the employer doesn't have to take a risk. The employer doesn't have to figure out how they're going to be able to put this person with the disability on their payroll without messing up their Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security benefits. Um, so it basically becomes a liability for the employer, and the employer looks at us as a liability instead of an asset to their company. What can someone like Nick bring to a company as opposed to someone who is able to get in a car and show up to work every day with no problems, doesn't need the use of a wheelchair, doesn't need the use of a caregiver. What can someone like Nick bring to the company? And employers are so focused on what the liability is and not what the ability that someone like me has, that I haven't even gotten a chance. I told you guys in several different episodes that the lady who tested me to be employable, which I found out I was not, according to them, which is a big lie. The lady who tested me on whether or not I was employable gave me a bunch of nonsense about, I'm looking at you in the world of work. And from what I see, you have nothing that I see nothing you can offer an employer. First of all, I'm still trying to figure out, I'm looking at you in the world of work. Well, how can you look at me in the world of work if I haven't even been in the world of work? So that doesn't even make sense to me. And how does a peg test, whether I can put pegs the size of a grain of rice, determine uh whether or not I'm employable? That's just ridiculous. And so I'm calling bullshit on the, you can always volunteer, but we're not going to take a risk uh, to see what you could really bring to our company. And I really do believe that if employers would pick up the bar as it pertains to people with disabilities, instead of stepping over it, and saying, well, at least they're volunteering. Well, at least they have a piece rate. Well, at least they're in the back folding clothes somewhere. At least they're included. If the employers would really pick up the bar and say, what is really possible in spite of this disability, I believe that we could see CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. We could see mayors. We could see governors. I don't know anybody who would want to be a president even if you have a disability. I know I don't want to be president of the United States. That's why I'm not shooting for it. And I'll never shoot for that. But imagine what people with disabilities could do if employers would pick up the bar off the damn floor instead of stepping over it. And you say, what are you talking about, Nick? What do you mean pick up the bar off the damn floor? Well, you see, when someone with a disability like me is born, the bar isn't set low, in my opinion. It's already on the damn floor because the doctors tell parents like mine he'll be deaf, he'll be blind, he won't be able to sit up on his own. He won't be able to do this. He won't be able to do that. All the litany of things that I won't be able to do. And then when the doctors are blown away because we surpass all the things that they said we wouldn't be able to do, and we're doing more than what they said we wouldn't be able to do, then the doctors and the parents are at a loss and they're like, okay, well, what do we do with them now? Because yes, we took your medical expertise, but they surpassed your medical expertise. They went above and beyond. They blew your medical expertise out of the water and basically gave you the middle finger and said, I'll show you, which is what a lot of people with disabilities do. And so that's why, these parents are so, well, they've been told they can't do this. So it must be true, even though we've already blown them out of that water. Well, okay, they did that, but now there's no way they can get a job and live on their own. Okay, but when we actually do that, it's like, at what point do you stop doubting our determination? At what point do you actually give us, as a person with a disability, a young man with a disability, young woman with a disability? At what point do you stop doubting what we can do and actually give us a freaking chance? Because we've already proven that we can do all the stuff you said we couldn't do. So when do you get behind us and become the wind at our backs instead of the roadblock that's keeping us from going forward? At some point, you have to stop being the roadblock that's keeping us from going forward and becoming the wind at our back, because that's what we need. We don't need any more roadblocks. We still have plenty that we're getting around in our daily life. And speaking from personal experience, I'm getting pretty damn good at going around these roadblocks. I need people with wind at my back saying, go, Nick, go. I need people with wind at my back telling me, push harder, push harder. I need people with wind at my back to come around from the back and say, hey, Nick, you're slowing down. You've got momentum. Don't lose it. I don't need people to be roadblocky. Okay. I need people to get tired and say, Nick, I can't keep up with you. How do you do it? And I'll tell you how I personally do it. I'm a man of faith, as I've mentioned many times on this podcast. And I make no apology for mentioning that. And I do believe that God has given me the strength and the tenacity to reach all the goals that I'm reaching, and to continue to reach all the goals that I have for 2026. People ask me all the time when the new year happens, Nick, what's your goal? What's your New Year's resolution? I don't do that. I just look at what I can improve upon. I can tell you what my mantra is for 2026: no tolerance for bullshit. And I have no tolerance for the bullshit anymore of, Nick, you could always volunteer. You could always volunteer, but we're not going to give you a chance. No, you're either going to give me a chance and you're going to pay me decently, or we're not going to work together. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be for every person who is able to work and contribute to society. And the state of Ohio prides itself on saying everyone's employable, everyone can find a job. Fine. Then why did someone that is contracted through OOD, Ohioans with Opportunities for Disabilities, why is someone that is contracted through Voc Rehab tell me, and I quote, Nick, I see nothing you can offer an employer? If everyone is employable, I should have never been told that. And let me be clear about this as well. I do not believe that everyone with a disability is employable. I do not believe that. And I strongly call on the state of Ohio to change that mantra, because it simply is not true and it is not feasible to make happen. If you're telling someone like me, who is physically disabled and mentally enabled, that I am unemployable, then who do you have employed right now that actually can't do the job? But because you're so desperate to check a box over there at the state of Ohio, that you'll give people who really probably have no business being in the workforce because of their health or because of their cognitive decline or their cognitive state. But yet you tell someone like me who has all their mental faculties in place, oh, I see nothing you can offer an employer. I'm telling you, employers, if you really stop looking at us as a liability, people like me will come for your job. Okay. Maybe that's what you're afraid of. Maybe you don't want to see somebody with a disability in the CEO chair. Maybe you don't want to see somebody who could actually have a higher CEO salary than you, especially someone with a disability. I don't know. Maybe that's the reason. But I'm telling you, if you really give us a chance, employers, and pick up the bar off the damn floor, there is nothing that people with disabilities can't do in that company. If you really give us a chance, your company's morale will boost. If your company is based in sales, I'm telling you, if you give someone like me a chance, we would be your best sales rep. Your sales numbers would go through the roof if you had someone like me. But because you're so scared and you just want to, give them a volunteer job so you can check a box and say that you're inclusive. Oh, you're inclusive so that they can work for free. You say that you're inclusive so that they can work for free and you can get a pat on the back. No, you'll become inclusive in my eyes when they get the same amount of pay for somebody else that's not disabled at your company. That somebody else gets that's not disabled at your company. You'll become inclusive when you will start treating your disabled employees with dignity and respect. And I'll tell you something else. You know, you're like, well, what if it doesn't work out? What if something happens? What if they get sick? Listen, you give all these opportunities to able-bodied people all the time, employers, and you get calls every day. I can't come into work today because I my car's broke down, or I broke a nail, or I was at the club last night. And honestly, they're not really that honest with you, so they're gonna make up some crazy ass excuse. But that doesn't stop you from giving an able-bodied employee a chance, but you're going to be worried about someone else's physical disability and whether they can show up because of their physical disability. Come on. You can't use that as an excuse anymore. You Because let me tell you something. You will have the greatest workers that you ever have if you start really diving in to the disabled community and giving us a chance. The workers that are working in the disabled community now that are full-time employed is still at 22.7%. It's increased a very little bit, but not much to move the needle and shout anything crazy about. So yeah, Nick, you could always volunteer. People with disabilities, you could always volunteer. I call bullshit on that. Tell that to your 12-year-old kid the next time they call and say, "Hey, I would like my own iPhone, or I would like a new bike, or I would like a new game system." See how much they see how much they react to you when you say, "Okay, volunteer," and we'll see if you earn a paid spot to actually get it. Pick up the bar employees, pick up the bar employers. You'll be glad you did. I know this is a shorter episode today, but I just wanted to come and share this with you. And we really need to give disabled people a chance in this world of work, which I'm still trying to figure out what that means. Nick, I'm looking at you in the world of work. Please, lady, please. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode today. Thank you again to Kyle for setting up last week's episode. I should be here every week going forward. If not, you will have another AI deep dive into my latest episodes, or I may have some surprise guest host coming up soon if I need to take another break. Thank you guys for listening to this episode. This is the Nick Speaks podcast, the podcast dedicated to the disabled community, where we speak out, and speak loud about the issues that matter to the disabled the most. I am your host, Nick Comstock. I will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Nick Speaks podcast, where we speak up, speak out, and speak loud for the disabled community. If today's conversation resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a new episode. You can find Nick across all platforms by visiting his LinkTree in the show notes. And please leave a comment to join the conversation. Until next time, keep speaking up, keep speaking out, and keep speaking loud.